Welcome back to another episode of Level 5 Education Lockdown. Now, as we know, the country's shut down. COVID-19 has closed pretty much all the schools. As far as I'm concerned, kids are at home. So I figured I'll switch it up a little bit. And I'm going to start giving you some stories about teachers in the past and present who have gone bad. Teachers turned criminals. Now, I have to warn you, some of this content is a bit graphic, but that's just reality, and it's important that we share these things so we know how to prevent it later, because a lot of these things I didn't even know myself until I googled it, and the more we know, the more we can share that knowledge. So it's very important, especially when we're dealing with children. I have a 5-year-old, right? We have to exploit these things, right? So we're going to Los Angeles, California today, specifically the Florence Firestone neighborhood, which is in South Los Angeles. It's one of the poor neighborhoods in Southern California. It's primarily Hispanic. It has gangs, all that stereotypical crap. And it's also, unfortunately, a breeding ground for people who want to take advantage of students. And that's nationwide and worldwide. Places with more poverty, it just has more cases of abuse, more cases of crime, more cases of violence, because there's just not that much attention in those neighborhoods, in those areas. That's my opinion, but if you ask me, that's a fact. All right? So we're going to start in Los Angeles today, like I said, Florence Firestone District, with a teacher by the name of Mark Berndt. Mark Berndt. Remember that name, because that is a devil in the classroom. Mark Berndt was teaching at Miramonte Elementary School in Florence Firestone since 1979. All right? He was 61 when he got caught, and we'll get into that. He was 61, but he had been there since 1979. All right? And here we go. Check this out. Now, Mark Berndt, he was there since 1979. He had no complaints, really, for the majority of his career. Same school for 20, 30 years. Everything seems to be A-okay. But as we know, everything ain't always how it seems, and especially not in Mark Berndt's class. All right? He was a third grade teacher for about 30 years. And if you were in that third grade class, you know, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. Please come forward, share some information if you choose. If not, I get it. All right? Here we go. Now Mark, as we know, he was a third grade teacher. Everything was going fine, blah, blah, blah. Every day passes, a new year comes along. He's still there. Fast forward to 2010, all right, to October 2010. 30 years, 31 years after he began working at the school. 31 years. In October 2010, a technician at the CVS drugstore in the South Bay area of Los Angeles came across a set of disturbing photographs of grade school boys and girls depicted in situations suggesting a bizarre form of sexual bondage. The film processor at CVS, as mandated by state law, notified the Redondo Beach Police Department on all right? So the CVS worker, he saw these sick pictures that he was developing, and he called the police. On December 2nd, the Redondo police turned the 40 photographs over to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office. Now, as I've said already, we see where this is going. I want you to remember that he has been there since 1979. And this story is about to get really crazy because it goes way deeper than Mark. If you ask me, it goes way deeper. Check this out. In some of the photographs, Mark Berndt either had his arm around a third grade boy or girl or his hand covering their mouths. Some photographs show children with live bugs crawling on their faces. Other kids are either blindfolded or have their mouths covered with clear tape. Some of the girls are depicting holding spoons containing a white liquid up to their mouths. A white liquid. And we're going to find out what that was in a little bit. All right? For better or worse. Children are also pictured about to eat cookies topped with the teacher's semen. Now you may ask yourself, how do they know? How do they know that was semen? How do they know that these pictures, what was going on? First of all, we can stop at the duct tape and crap over their face. That's violation, a huge violation, number one. But in Berndt's classroom trash can, police recovered a blue plastic spoon containing traces of his semen. I want you to understand that this man was working in a low-income neighborhood for 30 years at this point. 30 years. It primarily Hispanic, and who knows how many times it changed since 79. I'm sure it was primarily African American, or then maybe then it went primarily Hispanic, or maybe a little bit of both. But that was the situation. A gangland, which I just say gangland for people to kind of put that in their perspective as a type of area. So I can therefore say that those areas get less attention. That's the only reason why I'm saying gangland. I'm not trying to use gangland as a term to make some sort of hysterical situation. Detectives with the Sheriff's Office Special Victims Unit started identifying the students in the photographs for interview. On January 3rd, 2011, a detective showed up to Miramonte to question Bernt. The teacher refused to speak to the investigators without consulting an attorney first. Now, so this is 2010 now. Remember, he's been there since 1979. Here's how we get some evidence of how crap has been wrong for a long time. A former 4th grade student at Bernt, a woman who's now 30, told detectives that in 1990, she and 2 other girls spoke to a school counselor about their teacher's odd, inappropriate behavior. And remember, in 1990, she's in 3rd grade. She's in 3rd grade. But she still has the audacity and the courage to go and report this guy. They said they seen him seated at his desk at front of the room playing with himself. The counselor accused the girls of making up the story. As a result, nothing came of their complaints. Now, 3 years later, 1993, police investigators looked into similar complaints against this guy. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, on grounds that police had not gathered sufficient evidence against Bernt, decided not to pursue the case. So this is 3 years after 1990. So this is like now he started in 1979. Why was he even at that school? We're going to get into that. This is deep. This is way deeper than just Mark Berndt. We're going to get into that. Shortly after Bernt refused to be interviewed by police, school administrations removed him from the classroom. A month later, February 2011, they fired him. Now, he wasn't exactly fired. They offered him $40,000 to leave, so they paid him off. That's the only way they can get him out, because if you're a tenured teacher, it is extremely hard for you to get fired. Extremely hard. He was never officially labeled as anything. He never had any complaints against him. So the most they can do was say, hey, we'll pay you $40,000. This is February 2011. He's been there since 79. The most they can, and they paid him off. While the parents of the children depicted in the photographs were told of the investigation, the police kept the public in the dark. Placed under police surveillance, Bernt, between the time of his discharge and arrest, was not in contact with children. So the public didn't even know. Other than the students, of the people involved, the rest of the parents had no idea that this man has been in this building since 1979 with complaints as early as 1990. But for some reason, the counselor thought the students were lying, making up a story. We're going to get into that. Don't forget about that part about that counselor, all right? Remember that. On January 30th, 2012, January 30th is my birthday, coincidentally, following a 13-month investigation, the case went public with Bernt's arrest at his home in Torrance, California. A search of his dwelling resulted in the discovery of 400 photographs, similar to the one seen by the CVS employee. 400 photographs. Were these all of the same children? I doubt it. How many children were involved in this sexual abuse, this sick sexual bondage, something that involves the guy's semen? I mean, this is sick shit. All right, 400 photos. Why didn't he throw those photos away? He knew he was under some sort of investigation. He knew something was going on. Why did he not throw them away? This is how sick he was. And also, if you ask me, how comfortable he was in the situation. This wasn't happening in Beverly Hills. This wasn't happening in affluent areas where parents have lawyers that can shut the whole school system down with the right amount of money. He knew what he was doing. Just like all abusers. This is why we talk about these things, because we have to look, a nationwide problem, inner city schools. This is education lockdown. This is what we talk about, this crap. This shit goes on worldwide, nationwide. I'm positive. But this case, I didn't even know about it till I Googled it. Although it made a little bit of nationwide news, a little bit, but I didn't know about this. This is something this is sick. There should be policy-changing stuff right here. With 23 counts of lewd acts. So he was charged with 23 counts of lewd acts against minors and was hauled off to jail where he was held on $23 million bond. Now, I'll give the system that. They gave him enough bond where he probably can't get out. All right? The criminal charges against him pertain to his contact with children ages 6 to 10 from 2008 to 2010. So this doesn't even include the 20 years or whatever from 1979 to 2008. This doesn't include the 1990, the 1993, even I guarantee you in the 80s. I guarantee you this sick fuck was doing this shit since the 80s. And I guarantee you there's a reason why he chose that school. And he was comfortable there for 30 years. That predator went in there knowing he was safe. Why? Because many people, like I said in previous videos, they don't want to work in these schools. Right? It's like working. Some people, I don't look at it this way at all. At all. I do not look at it this way. But some people look at it as working at McDonald's. Can you believe it or not? Some people think working at inner city schools is like working at McDonald's. As far as let's say if the restaurant industry was the school industry, they prefer to work at, some fancy Italian 5-star. They look at these inner city schools as McDonald's. And one thing, if you work at McDonald's, if you show up every day and you're not late, you're going to keep that job And that's what this guy did. He knew. But he wasn't slick enough. Now, here is where this gets deep. Here's where this gets sick. All right? Remember I told you about the counselor that said, you guys are telling stories. I mean, can you imagine being a counselor and telling a third grade person that hey, you're just telling stories when they told you our teacher is touching himself in front of the classroom? On February 3rd, 2012, the police arrested a second Miramonte teacher on charges unrelated to the Bernt case. That is the key part, unrelated. Martin B. Springer, 49, was charged with 3 counts of committing lewd acts in connection with alleged fondling of an 8-year-old in one of his classes. He was fired and held on $300,000 bail. He's from Alhambra, and Springer has been teaching at that school since 1986. So he was there since 86. Bernt was there since 79. I don't understand. Now it gets even deeper. Hold on. Now, on February, I have to say this. It's only right I say this as well. On February 7th, 2012, one of the 2 girls who accused Springer of fondling her recanted her story. But as we know, a lot of girls, a lot of people, a lot of sexual assault victims recant this story because they don't want to relive that. Maybe their parents don't want to relive that. Maybe they want to just take the easy way out, just forget about it, which ain't right. But who am I to judge them? I'm nobody to judge them. Right? None of us are. A lawyer representing Jane Doe number 1, which is one of Bernt's victims, we can't say her name because she was so young at the time, so young and innocent, who ate a sugar cookie laced with the teacher's semen, announced plans to sue the LA Unified School District. The plaintiff claimed that the school district did not take adequate steps to prevent Bernt from repeatedly abusing his students after numerous complaints had been filed against him. Following Bernt's arrest, 7 more students came forward with allegations of abuse. Now, there's more than 7. These are only the people who had the courage. I don't want to say courage because that would be implying other victims don't have courage. I'm not saying that. But they just wanted to have this come to light. Think about the ones who just didn't want to think about this. Think about the ones who led a life of trauma and violence and depression and drug abuse and sexual misconduct, all because someone they trusted, their teacher did this to them. Someone they trust. 3rd freaking graders. Now, this is where it gets crazy. On February 6, 2012, perhaps in response to allegations of an intentional cover-up, the 88 teachers and 40 supporting staff, the entire school was suspended with pay, and substitutes came in. Are you kidding me? The Miramonte situation continued to worsen on February 7th, 2012, when the mother of a former 4th grader told the Los Angeles Times that in 2009, A 50-year-old female teacher's aide. A 50-year-old female teacher's aide wrote 3 love letters to her then 11-year-old son. One of the letters read, "When you get close to me, even if you give me the chills, I like that. Don't tell nobody, oh boy, about this." What the fuck is going on in this school? What the fuck is going on in this school? This is 3 allegations, back to back to back. What the fuck is going on in this school? And how big of a problem is this? In these lower class situations where they don't have that attention and that care as higher class situations in schools. What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? In November 13th, Mark Berndt pleaded no contest to 23 counts of lewd acts on children. The judge sentenced the then 62-year-old former elementary school teacher to 25 years in prison. According to Bernt's defense attorney, his client was remorseful and apologetic. The lawyer said that Bernt had entered a plea to spare his victim the ordeal of a trial. You really think this excuse my language, do you really think that this asshole spared a trial, a chance for him to get free, to save the spirit and the well-being of the victims? Or did he just not want that shit coming out to light, that shit being told to him? Because he's a freaking coward. That's what child molesters do. They're cowards. They can't face their crimes. They can't face their crime. That's why he pled no contest. That's why he took the charge. He took that shit. He took it, 25 years. He'd rather do that than have those kids, now older, no longer young and easy to manipulate, look him in the eye and tell him, hey, you put your semen in cookies. You took pictures with tape around my fucking face. You betrayed my trust. That's what he avoided. That's what the fuck he avoided. Alright? On November 21, 2014, a spokesperson for the Los Angeles Unified School District announced that it had agreed to pay nearly $170 million in court settlements related to the Bernt pedophilia case. The settlement involved more than 100 students. More than 100 students. Whoever was going in that 3rd grade class from 1979, that class was a child molestation factory. That place was a hellhole. And I feel so bad for the kids who had to just go through that. From South Los Angeles, you already have enough stuff against you. The one place you're supposed to be safe at is in school. The one place. And that's the place where this cocksucker, excuse my language, I'm sorry, but I'm angry. I have a 5-year-old son. Many of us watching this have kids. This guy should have the death penalty for what he did. Remember, his first complaint came 11 years after he started working in 1990, and that wasn't even an official complaint because unfortunately, kids saying something isn't official. A 3rd grader telling a counselor or something is not official, right? 30 years he had been working there. All types of environments have people who shouldn't be there. Don't get me wrong. But in some situations we know in some areas, shit goes under the rug. Shit gets swept under the freaking rug. And that's what happened here. And this guy was comfortable. He was comfortable in that situation. He thought no one cared. And there's evidence of that. There's evidence that he thought no one cared. It's more than just me saying it. Alright, this is why. Bernt seemed unnerved when neighbor John, I won't say his last name, when his neighbor John spotted him. The neighbor said that he saw this guy, I guess, at a beach or a boardwalk or something, right? This is what Bernt said to his neighbor, who sees him with a random little girl on a bike. He told him, "Don't tell my sister I was with this young girl." The neighbor said Bernt told him the girl was one of his students, and that they had ridden the bicycle nearly as far as Marina Del Rey and back. He said he frequently saw Bernt hanging out at around Redondo Beach Pier, drinking beer and gawking at girls. So this guy was taking students after school hours. That means he had the trust of the parents. This guy was a fucking scumbag. He was looking in the parents' eyes with trust and saying, hey, allow me to take your child for a bike ride. Not knowing what comes with that. Not knowing when you drop your child off. When he drops your child has been sexually abused. Do you understand the rage that I would feel the rage that everyone should feel. These parents, they're much better than me. I would have went after this fucking guy. I would have went after him. And if I went to jail, it would have been worth it. It would have been fucking worth it. I'm telling you that right now. So as we see, he was comfortable. He literally told his neighbor, don't tell my sister. I guess the neighbor knew his sister from somewhere. Maybe they dated or something. Don't tell my sister that I'm with this girl. She's from school. Why would you say that? Maybe your sister knows that you're a creepy fuck already. I'm sure his sister probably knew something. Why else would he tell the person, don't tell my sister? What? Why would you say that? Don't tell my sister? Because you know your sister knows that you're a sick fuck because your sister has known you for a long fucking time. Way before 1979. That's what the fuck happened. Now, he wasn't the only teacher in that situation. He was not the only teacher in that situation. There was another teacher, as we saw. There was a classroom aide. How many teachers were involved? Why did they suspend every staff member and every teacher? Why? Because they knew some shit ain't right at this school. How many other schools are involved? We don't know. I'm sure it goes up to the principal. Sandoval, you knew some shit was going on. This is important. This shows you how systematic bullshit, how crazy it is systematically. Because he wasn't fired, remember? He took the $40,000. They paid him to leave. That means he kept his benefits and his pension of over $3,000 a month, which at his age will total to about $1 million that he's receiving. Do you understand? That's fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy. And I hope this video influences us and starts dialogue so that we can understand that we need to be careful about shit like this, especially in low-income areas, in rural areas, in Hispanic areas, in black areas, in low-impoverished white areas where there's not a lot of representation. Do you understand me? These things are happening. This guy went from 1979 to 2012, or 2011, I should say. Comfortable. 400 pictures of naked children in his house. Comfortable from 1979 because no one cares what goes on in these inner city schools. I told you guys that in my previous video about corruption. Some of these schools are like prisons in the middle of nowhere. As long as the principal or the warden doesn't say anything, anything flies. And I said anything. Thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope that this struck a nerve. I hope it sparked something. That was the whole point of it. And if you support the content, please help me out by hitting that little subscribe button. Hit that like button. Alright? And thank you for tuning into another episode of Education Lockdown.